Welcome to our channel. In this video, we're talking about an issue that's grabbing a lot of attention around the world. Imagine vast fields of shining solar panels stretching across the landscape, replacing the traditional sight of crops swaying in the breeze. This is the reality in China right now. The country is making huge strides in solar energy, installing more capacity last year alone than the US has ever built. It's a bold move towards a greener future, reducing reliance on fossil fuels and aiming for carbon neutrality by 2060. But here's where things get complicated. This rapid expansion isn't happening in empty deserts or in used spaces. It's encroaching on valuable farmland. Picture this. Farmers who once grew rice or wheat on fertile land are now leasing their fields for solar farms. This shift is raising serious concerns. On one hand, we have the incredible push for renewable energy, which is crucial for tackling climate change. On the other hand, we're seeing a potential threat to food security, as less land is available for growing crops. Why should this matter to us? Well, China's decisions can ripple across the globe. If their agricultural output drops, it could affect global food supplies, leading to higher prices and more competition for food resources. And let's not forget, the US is a major player in both agriculture and renewable energy. How we balance these two critical areas could be influenced by what's happening in China. In this video, we'll explore these issues in depth, looking at the economic competition between the US and China. We'll see how China's aggressive solar expansion impacts global markets, trade relations, and economic strategies right here in America. It's a story of innovation and challenge, ambition and consequence, and it's happening right now. So, stick with us as we unpack this fascinating and complex topic and see what it means for all of us. China installed more solar power capacity last year than the US has built in its entire history. Think about that for a moment. More solar power in just 1 year than what the US has achieved over decades. This incredible growth is driven by China's ambitious goal to be carbon neutral by 2060. It's a huge step forward in the fight against climate change. But there's a catch. This rapid expansion of solar farms is taking over land that was once used for growing food. We're talking about vital cropland, essential for feeding the population. This shift is raising serious concerns about food security. Imagine being a farmer who has tilled the land for generations, now seeing your fertile fields covered with solar panels instead of crops. Let's take a closer look at Hubei province. A report by CCTV, China's state broadcaster, highlighted the issue. Local farmers in Hubei have seen an 80% drop in their agricultural yields. These were once high-quality farmlands, perfect for growing rice and other essential crops. Now, these lands are covered with solar panels, and the efforts to grow crops under them haven't been successful. This situation in Hubei is just one example of a broader problem. As China races towards renewable energy, the balance between energy needs and food production is becoming a major challenge. It's a vivid illustration of how even well-intentioned policies can have unexpected and far-reaching consequences. The story of Hubei's farmers is a poignant reminder that while the path to a greener future is essential, it must be navigated carefully to avoid compromising other critical needs, like food security. The competition between the US and China isn't just about technology or military might. It's also about resources and sustainability. Think about it like this. Both countries are running a marathon, but the track isn't just a straight line. It's filled with obstacles like food security and environmental concerns. As China races to expand its renewable energy capacity, it's trying to jump over these hurdles, but sometimes it stumbles. China is working hard to increase its solar energy production to cut down on carbon emissions. That's great for the environment, but it's causing some problems too. You see, as more and more farmland gets taken over by solar panels, less land is available to grow food. This is where things start to get tricky. Food security is a big deal, especially for a country with a population as large as China's. If they can't grow enough food to feed their people, they might have to buy more from other countries. Now, let's think about what happens when China's agricultural output drops. China is one of the world's biggest producers of staple crops like rice and wheat. If they start producing less, it's like removing a giant piece from a global puzzle. Other countries will have to fill in the gaps, and that can cause a lot of disruption. Imagine if the price of rice and wheat starts going up because there's not enough supply to meet the demand. This can make food more expensive not just in China, but all around the world. Take soybeans, for example. China is a major importer of soybeans, especially from countries like the US. If China reduces its own production of various crops because of the shift to solar farms, it might need to import even more. This could increase demand for U.S. soybeans, which sounds good for American farmers at first. But increased demand can also lead to higher prices for soybeans, which can affect everything from food production to animal feed costs. This isn't just a theoretical issue. Back in 2007 to 2008, we saw a global food crisis where prices for staple foods like rice, wheat, and corn skyrocketed. Countries faced food shortages, and the world saw widespread protests and political instability. If China's agricultural production continues to decline, it could contribute to another such crisis. Higher food prices mean more strain on low-income households and can lead to greater economic inequality. For the U.S., this situation is a double-edged sword. On one side, American farmers might see more business as China buys more food from abroad. But on the other side, the U.S. also relies on stable food prices and availability. If the global market becomes too volatile, it can affect American consumers and food security at home. And let's not forget about the broader economic impacts. Higher food prices can lead to inflation, which can affect everything from the cost of groceries to the stability of the economy. In this intricate dance of global economics, every move China makes affects not just itself but the entire world. As China prioritizes its green energy goals, it has to carefully balance its need for sustainable energy with the equally critical need for food security. The U.S., meanwhile, has to watch these developments closely and prepare to adapt its own strategies in agriculture, trade, and renewable energy. This is a prime example of how interconnected our world has become, where the actions of one country can have a ripple effect across the globe. So, as we watch China transform its energy landscape, we must also keep an eye on the implications for global food supply and trade. It's a complex game with high stakes, and the outcomes will shape the economic and geopolitical landscape for years to come. Global markets are intricately connected. When one major player like China makes significant changes, it sends ripples across the world. If China's agricultural production drops because they're converting farmland into solar farms, this can shake things up globally. Suddenly, there's less rice, wheat, and other crops coming out of China, and other countries have to step in to fill the gap. For American farmers, this might sound like good news at first. Increased demand for U.S. agricultural exports can mean more business and potentially higher prices for their crops. But it's not all rosy. Higher demand can also drive up food prices here at home. So while farmers might get more for their crops, consumers could end up paying more at the grocery store. It's like a double-edged sword, beneficial in one way but challenging in another. Let's take a real-life example: soybeans. China imports a lot of soybeans from the U.S. If China needs to buy even more because their own crop production is down, the price of soybeans could go up. This isn't just about soybeans on their own. They're used in everything from animal feed to cooking oil. So, higher soybean prices can trickle down and affect a wide range of products. Now, let's talk about land. The U.S. is also pushing for more renewable energy, just like China. Solar farms are popping up across the country, and they need land too. This creates a situation where farmland might be converted to solar farms here as well. If more and more land is used for solar panels, there's less available for growing crops. It's a balancing act, finding the right mix between using land for renewable energy and keeping enough for agriculture. Consider California, for example. It's a leading state in both agriculture and renewable energy. In the Central Valley, we've seen large tracts of farmland being converted into solar farms. This helps with clean energy goals but also raises questions about long-term food production. It's a microcosm of the larger issue facing the entire country and, indeed, the world. Experts worry that if we don't manage this carefully, we could see increased competition for arable land. Farmers might find it more profitable to lease their land for solar projects rather than grow crops. This could lead to a decrease in food production, higher prices, and potential food shortages. So, what's the takeaway here? The global market is a complex web. Changes in one area, like China's agricultural production, can have far-reaching effects. It highlights the need for balanced policies that support both renewable energy growth and food production. As we strive to build a sustainable future, we must ensure that we're not sacrificing our ability to feed the world in the process. It's about finding that sweet spot where we can have clean energy and abundant food, without one undermining the other. Trade relations between the US and China are already complex and multifaceted. It's like a web of interactions where every move has implications. China's aggressive push to expand its solar energy capacity is another twist in this ongoing story. This move is not just about going green, it's also about positioning China as a leader in the renewable energy sector. For the US, this means facing new levels of competition and reassessing its own strategies to stay in the game. Let's break it down. If China becomes the global leader in solar energy, it could influence global energy markets and standards. This isn't just about who has the most solar panels. It's about who sets the rules and technologies that others will follow. For the US, this could mean a need to ramp up its own renewable energy efforts to ensure it doesn't fall behind. Policymakers in the US have a tricky job. They need to support renewable energy projects to keep up with global trends and environmental goals, but they also can't afford to neglect agriculture. Imagine trying to balance two equally important tasks: promoting solar farms and ensuring we have enough land to grow food. One innovative solution that's gaining attention is agrivoltaics. This involves installing solar panels in a way that allows land to be used for both energy and farming. There are real-world examples of this happening. In some parts of the US, like Massachusetts, farmers are experimenting with agrivoltaics. They're placing solar panels high enough off the ground to allow for crops to grow underneath. This way, they get the benefits of renewable energy without sacrificing agricultural productivity. It's a win-win situation, but it requires careful planning and investment. Trade negotiations between the US and China will also play a big role. If China floods the market with cheap solar panels, it could affect US manufacturers and lead to trade tensions. The US might need to implement policies to protect its own solar industry while also finding ways to collaborate on global environmental goals. The bottom line is that the US needs a balanced approach. Supporting renewable energy is crucial, but it can't come at the expense of food security. By adopting innovative practices like agrivoltaics and carefully navigating trade relations, the US can aim to maintain its competitive edge and ensure a sustainable future. In the end, it's all about finding harmony between different priorities. As the US watches China's solar expansion, it has to adapt and strategize to meet the dual challenges of clean energy and agricultural sustainability. It's a complex dance, but with thoughtful policies and innovative solutions, it's possible to succeed on both fronts. Navigating this geopolitical and economic competition requires strategic thinking and collaboration. It's a bit like driving through a busy city. You need a good map, a clear plan, and sometimes you have to adapt on the fly. Both the US and China have their own roads to travel when it comes to balancing renewable energy growth and food security. But here's the thing, there's a lot they can learn from each other's successes and challenges. China, for instance, has made huge strides in solar energy. They've managed to install more solar power in 1 year than the US has over decades. That's impressive and provides a blueprint for rapid renewable energy expansion. However, they're also facing the downside, losing valuable cropland and impacting food security. The US can take note of this and aim to avoid similar pitfalls by ensuring that agricultural needs are balanced with energy goals. On the flip side, the US has been experimenting with innovative practices like agrivoltaics, where solar panels and farming coexist. Places like Massachusetts are leading the way, showing that it's possible to grow crops under solar panels. These are the kinds of sustainable practices that can be scaled up and shared globally. By investing in research and development, we can find even more ways to harmonize these needs. Imagine new technologies that make solar panels more efficient or farming techniques that thrive in different light conditions. It's about pushing the boundaries of what's possible through science and innovation. Supporting sustainable practices is another key step. This means providing incentives for farmers who integrate renewable energy into their operations and ensuring that policies support long-term agricultural productivity. It's not just about putting up solar panels. It's about making sure the land remains fertile and productive for future generations. Engaging in international cooperation is crucial too. No country can tackle these challenges alone. By collaborating with China and other nations, the US can share best practices, develop joint projects, and set global standards that benefit everyone. Think of it as a global team effort to create a sustainable future. In the end, it's all about strategic navigation. The US can strengthen its position in this global competition by learning, adapting, and collaborating. It's not just about keeping up with China, It's about leading the way towards a balanced and sustainable future. With smart strategies and a willingness to work together, we can ensure that both energy and food needs are met, paving the way for a healthier planet. The race for renewable energy is not just about reducing emissions, it's about securing a sustainable future for everyone. As we move forward, understanding the geopolitical and economic implications of these developments will be crucial. It's like piecing together a big puzzle where every piece matters, and how we place each piece affects the bigger picture. In this video, we've explored how China's ambitious solar expansion is impacting agricultural land and what that means for global markets and trade relations, especially with the US. We've looked at how these changes could lead to higher food prices, increased competition for land, and the need for innovative solutions like agrivoltaics. As we continue to navigate these challenges, it's essential to stay informed and engaged. Policymakers, farmers, and businesses all have roles to play in finding a balance between renewable energy growth and maintaining food security. By learning from each other and working together, we can ensure that our strategies are both sustainable and effective. Thank you for watching.